Hey guys, this is Amber Romaniak from Amber Approved. Thanks for watching this video. I am here to give you part 2 of a 3-part series of what food addiction or emotional eating can look like. And if you missed part 1, you can definitely click on this video to watch it to catch up. But essentially I'm making this 3-part series because I struggled with a food addiction and emotional eating for a good chunk of my life, and it got really serious in my early 20s. And I overcame my food addiction, and now I support other people with one-on-one coaching and helping to empower them to overcome their self-sabotage and their issues with food addiction, food struggles, emotional eating, binge eating, cravings, etc. So part 2 of this video is the action of food addiction, what I did when I would go to the store and buy all the food that I wanted to eat and binge on it. So essentially, I'm going to show you what it would look like, a typical binge evening for me. So essentially, what would happen would be I would have a trigger, so either get cravings, really intense cravings, especially for sweets, and carbohydrates like breads and pastas and things like that, or I would be triggered by a negative emotion, fear, guilt, worry, sadness, anger, and I just couldn't, for the life of me, sit with those emotions. So I got into a vicious cycle of overeating, which then turned into binge eating, where I was completely out of control with my eating, and essentially would just go to the store, buy all my favorite treats, and come home and watch TV and just binge on food for a good 2 hours to numb myself from my reality of feeling these emotions. And that's normally why someone will binge eat. So essentially what I would do is get cravings and then just obsess about all the things I was going to buy at the store. I would plan my binge, go to the store, pick up a good basket full of groceries, which ended up being 2, sometimes 3 grocery bags full of food, come home, pop in a movie, and start eating. So I want to show you the amount of food that I used to binge on. I actually went to the store today and, went through what I would normally buy years ago for a binge, and it felt really weird to buy all this food that I no longer eat, that I no longer crave, that no longer appeals to me, and bring it home. It kind of brought up some old memories of, where things used to be, and it makes me really proud and appreciative of where I am now, because it definitely was hell at the time to deal with. So when I binged, it wasn't just on 1 or 2 things, it was usually multiple items. I had a mindset of, I'd put some ice cream in my cart and some chocolate and maybe a couple of donuts or cookies, and then I would look and think, I don't think this is enough. Oh my God, like what if I run out of food while I'm watching this movie? That would be devastating. So I had a I don't have enough mentality, so I would buy more than enough than I would need to stuff myself and probably feed, 4 or 5 more people, but having that mentality made me buy more food. And then I think of, oh, I don't want to, miss out on something and not feed a craving, so I have to make sure I get chips. I have to make sure that I get, chocolate bars and candy and everything, because I don't want to come home and have something missing. So let's start on one side of my couch and work our way to the other. So I would usually start eating on the way home. So usually it would be like cookies or a bagel, and here is, I'll move this a little bit. So this is 2 big bagels and 10 cookies. So I'd usually be able to kill about 5 cookies on the way home, and then by the time I got home, eat the other 5 cookies and at least a couple of bagels with like peanut butter and jam. Then I would usually dig into a good half a dozen donuts, 4 or 5 donuts, at least 2 cinnamon buns. Sometimes they had cream cheese icing, sometimes they didn't. Then I would usually find myself wanting chocolate, so I'd eat at least 2 full-length chocolate bars and at least a couple of large-sized muffins, didn't matter which flavor they were. And none of this was gluten-free or anything. This was all your basic junk food. Then I could go through a whole box of granola bars, which was usually 5 or 6, and usually at least 1 bag of candy that I would go through. So it didn't really matter the variety, but I definitely always wanted something sweet. I'd always have a pint of ice cream. That was always a must. at least one, sometimes two. Then I'd usually eat a whole bag of crackers or pita chips or something really crunchy, and usually a bag of chips. So this is a lot of food. This is probably over 10,000 calories worth of food that I would eat in one night in about 2 hours. Obviously, by the time I was done eating this food, I felt like complete garbage. I was too full, I was bloated, in pain, and I felt so angry. And part 3 of this video is talking about the physical and emotional feelings of how I feel and how you may feel after you binge eat. So it was very devastating for me to keep running this vicious cycle, and every day I vowed I would stop, and every day I just kept continuing. So, depending on how much you eat, if you're a binge eater, I'm definitely, am happy for you to share with me your struggles and what you're going through, because whether you are eating far less than I am on a binge night or you're eating more than this, it doesn't matter. I want to help raise awareness around this issue with food addiction and binge eating and emotional eating and our body image and our cravings, and how these foods can really sabotage our health if we continue to eat them for large amounts of time. So one of the things I would obsess about would be biting into that first cookie or that first piece of chocolate. This is because as a food addict, I remembered a short-term euphoria or pleasure I would feel when I started to eat this food. So essentially, when we start eating something that we like, that's really yummy, usually that's got refined sugars and things like that, it gives us a short-term high, and this is usually contributed by the serotonin and dopamine, the feel-good neurotransmitters that boost our mood temporarily. We produce those when we eat sugar or eat a food we really like. So that was really what I was seeking out, but that only lasted about 5 minutes, and then the more I delved into the food, the worse I felt. But food addiction was like numbing myself from my reality so I didn't have to feel my emotions. So I just kept eating. So sometimes I would have leftover food, or if I felt really disgusted, I would just say, I have to get rid of this right now, and I would throw it in the garbage. I knew I had really hit my low point when I was laying in bed in pain, completely disgusted with myself, but would get a craving come on about an hour after I was done binging and feel just a speck of room in my stomach and think, oh my God, I want more of that food. So I would literally go to the garbage and dig through the garbage to get the food and eat more of it, which made me feel even more embarrassed and ashamed. So that definitely was something that pushed me to my end of wanting to try and figure out why I was repeating this behavior over and over. If any of you watching can relate to this or feel like you know someone that's dealing with this, just know that you're not alone, and I can completely understand where you're coming from, and that it is possible to overcome these hellish dark times. It just takes some time to get through them, but I just want to give you some hope that you can overcome this. So in part 3 of the video, I'm going to be talking about, like I said, the emotional and physical feelings that I would experience after binging. So I post videos on Wednesdays on my YouTube channel, so you can subscribe below, and next Wednesday you'll see part 3. So again, my name is Amber Romaniuk of Amber Approved, and I'm a healthy food expert, and I'm here to help to support you to overcome your struggles with food addiction and emotional eating, your cravings, your physical imbalances like digestive issues that just seem to not go away. If you have any comments, definitely leave them below. I'm happy to answer them. As well, if you do want to contact me one-on-one, you can do so at amberapproved.ca on my contact page, and there is a link here on this video. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you got something out of this. This is about spreading awareness because I want to help support people. And so many people deal with this but don't say anything about it because they're too ashamed and embarrassed and feel like they have no one that they can turn to. Be that friend or that brother or that sister or that support that can help them to open up to get some help, because it is possible. Thank you so much for sharing this vulnerable past of mine with me. And like I said, if you can relate, please open up and share your stories with me in private if you feel more comfortable that way. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next week.